Okay, here we are doing a Facebook Live. 1 second here. Haven't done one of these in a while, so hop on here. Let me know if you're hearing my audio okay, things like that. It's been quite a while since we've had to do a Facebook Live because we really haven't had much weather. It's been pretty quiet here the last really last month or so. We haven't had a whole lot going on. But of course, now we are tracking the tropics. We are tracking Tropical Storm Francine, which is currently developing now in the Gulf of Mexico, and it is expected to strengthen to potentially a Category 1 hurricane overnight tonight and then make its way northeast and impacting the coast of southwest and southern Louisiana. It looks like right along the Gulf Coast there, say between, I'd say the Texas state line and maybe New Orleans, somewhere along the southwest or central Louisiana coast. That's where this is expected to make landfall. So again, if you are having issues hearing me, hop on here. And I'm going to be checking this Facebook Live every once in a while to see if you have any questions. So if you do have any questions, hop on here and ask away. I'll try to answer as many as I can. But again, the reason I'm doing this Facebook Live tonight is because, of course, we are tracking the tropics. It is the peak of hurricane season and prime time for the Gulf of Mexico. Those water temperatures are very warm right now. We're talking, water temperatures like bath water, mid to upper 80s is those current water temperatures in the Gulf. So that's what this hurricane, or right now tropical storm, is going to feed off of. But there are some other environmental factors right now that are actually sort of hindering its development. So, it's a very interesting forecast. But what I want to do is kind of take you into some of the graphics here. So let's show you the current stats on Tropical Storm Francine. And this is the very latest from the National Hurricane Center here. Right now, winds of 65 miles an hour and moving to the north-northwest at about 7 miles an hour. Currently, the pressure is 993 millibars. And again, guys, if you have any questions at all, I hear you. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for chiming in there. So again, we're going to kind of go through stuff here, and I'll spend some time with you this evening just discussing everything you need to know about Tropical Storm Francine. I will say, based on the latest satellite data, it's not looking nearly as healthy as it was earlier. Now, this could be, only a temporary thing. I do think this is still going to strengthen later on tonight. What you got going on, though, you can really see there's some dry air kind of wrapping around the south side of this system, and that dry air gets wrapped all the way into the center of circulation. And I can actually show you this a little bit better here. So let's go to a different graphic. I want to show you the satellite of the last couple of hours and kind of show you how this has been progressing. So you can really see what's going on here when you put this satellite loop in motion. You can see how the dry air is kind of eroding that thunderstorm activity, and I'll be honest with you, this is not looking very healthy tonight, and that's a good thing. So I don't really expect any rapid intensification of this overnight tonight, just based on the satellite presentation of it. Again, it's not looking very healthy right now, but the problem is this thing still has, a good 24 to 36 hours over these very warm Gulf waters. And so that does concern the National Hurricane Center. That concerns me as well, because anytime you have a system over the Gulf of Mexico this time of year, it bears watching. Right now, not looking nearly as healthy, but that does not mean we are out of the woods by any means. And we are still expecting this to become a hurricane potentially later tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. So let's go back to our other graphic here. And again, I want to show you the track that this is going to take. So as we move this along, notice that makes its way to the northeast, and it is still expected. This is from the very latest from the National Hurricane Center. Now, we are going to get a new update from the Hurricane Center right around 10 p.m., so it will be interesting to see what they say during that time. Tune into KSLA News 12 at 10 to our live broadcast, and I'll have the very latest on what the National Hurricane Center is thinking, because again, they're going to have their update here in about 45 minutes. But as of right now, this is expected to make landfall right along the southern Louisiana coastline there, and right now expected to be a Category 2 with 100-mile-an-hour winds, so that's going to cause quite a bit of an issue there along the coast. And then this is expected to travel off to the north, kind of northeasterly direction. Latest forecast models, though, tonight are trending even farther to the east, and that is great news for us in the Arklatex. If this eastward trend continues, the impacts here are really going to be pretty minimal, so that's good news. We'll see if this trend continues, but I have been noticing here, within the last, I'd say 6 to 12 hours, pretty much today, I've been noticing a trend that the forecast models continue to track this thing farther and farther to the east. So that would be good for us. Not such good news for our friends to the east, places like Lafayette, Baton Rouge, definitely concerned about you. Even out towards New Orleans, we could be dealing with some issues there with some storm surge and things like that. But here's the latest track again from the National Hurricane Center, and you can see the cone of uncertainty. That's that shaded cone that you see there. That is now basically east of the Arklatex. So that kind of, we're not necessarily in the clear per se, but we are certainly not as concerned as our friends to the east. So let's take a look at another graphic here. This will show you the impacts that we're expecting. And with the current track of Francine, really the far eastern sections of our viewing area. So this is our Arklatex viewing area. This is basically the viewing area that KSLA covers. And you can see it's those far southeastern parishes there in that red shaded region. That's where we have a higher risk of impacts from Francine. That yellow shaded region does extend a little bit farther to the north and west. It's basically just to the east of Shreveport and Bossier, so that's where you could see maybe some heavier rainfall. If you're in the shade of green, that's where we're looking at some pretty low impacts. And again, based on the latest forecast models, it does appear, at least right now, that this is trending a little farther to the east, so that's some good news. Let me actually show you some of our latest spaghetti models. Now, we call these spaghetti models just because they kind of look like spaghetti, so I'll show you what I mean here. But so this is the latest model guidance, and you can see how, yes, there's been a major shift off to the east here with these latest. Ignore that blue line that you see on the left. That model is not very reliable, so just ignore that. What you want to look at is the clustering of forecast models that move into Louisiana. So basically what this is, each line that you see here is just a different hurricane forecast model. This is what a lot of us use to help forecast, where a hurricane or tropical storm is going to go. But as you can see, this is the very latest data here. A lot of this is pretty far to our east now. I mean, you can see where the Arklatex is on, up in northwest Louisiana. And yeah, so if this verifies, this would be great news for us. And people asking about Natchitoches. Natchitoches are still kind of on the edge of some bad weather, but again, if this trend continues, that might all pass off to our east, so that would be good. Let me go to the latest forecast model here. I can kind of show you a different vantage point. So let's start off tomorrow. This is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we're going to start off pretty quiet first thing on Tuesday. As we take this along into the 5 o'clock hour, you can see how the clouds start to spread their way in. So these clouds that you see, that's the outer edges of Francine. So that's kind of the very outer edges of the system. And then you can see how, as we head through, this is again tomorrow night and into early Wednesday. This is Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. And you can see how those rain bands are kind of spiraling in around the edge of Francine. So these will be bands associated with some locally heavy downpours. There could be, some 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts with a few of these squally bands of rain that will come through. But you can really see how the brunt of that is kind of focused. And again, there could still be some light showers even into portions of East Texas. So all of the Arklatex could see some rain out of this. But I really think it's going to be our southeasternmost parishes. And here's what I was talking about. So this forecast model is really shifting a lot of this to the east. And really all the models we've been looking at are doing this. So where you see this, the deeper shades of red, that's the center of Francine. And look how far east that is now tracking. I mean, this really could be more of a Mississippi problem at this point. I mean, obviously it's going to impact southern Louisiana, but as it crosses over into southern Mississippi, that could be an issue for them. But as you can see here in the Arklatex, I mean, at least according to this, we're not going to get much. In fact, if this trend continues, we might not even see much rain at all. So this is definitely one of those situations where we're just going to keep updating you as we get this new data in. And if you've been following my Facebook page, I've been trying to update every time there's a new model run that comes in. But what we've been noticing is that there's kind of like this back and forth. So one set of models will shift further back closer to us. The next model run comes in kind of back further to the east, and kind of back and forth and back and forth. But what we've noticed today is there's been a consistent eastward trend. So every model run that has come in is shifting east and further east and further east. And so that trend is continuing tonight. And again, that is actually some really good news. Let's take a look at the rainfall potential. And as you can see right there, the heavier amounts will be a little farther to the east. I'm going to put my little picture on there. If that gets in the way, let me know and I can remove that. But again, as you can see, the rainfall amounts really tapering off in our western areas. So if you're watching from East Texas, up into McCurtain County there, probably not going to see a whole lot of rain. Along the I-49 corridor, Shreveport, Bossier, up through Texarkana. So Caddo, Bossier parishes, maybe a ½ inch of rain, maybe 3/4 of an inch. I just don't think we're going to get a lot out of this, at least based on what I'm looking at now. So again, the trend is definitely, at least tonight, the trend looks like it's kind of down with all of this, but we'll have to see because we don't want to let our guard down. Tropical systems are very tricky, and forecast models sometimes have an issue kind of grasping where they're going to go. But right now, yeah, it's not looking quite as impressive, at least for the Arclitex. So again, let me go back to, and again, if you guys have questions, I will try to, I know a lot of you are asking stuff on here, so I'll try to get to as many as I can. Okay, so anyway, so this is the current stats. If you're just joining us, the currently 65-mile-an-hour winds there, Tropical Storm Francine. But as I talked about, if you missed the beginning of this Facebook Live, I was talking about how this is really looking quite unhealthy right now. This is good. It's a good thing. And as you can see, you know, if you were watching the 5 p.m., 4 p.m. newscast this evening, you saw this big blob of red. It was this big area of big thunderstorms, and it was looking pretty impressive. Not looking nearly as healthy tonight. And what we've seen is if you look at the southern edge of that, southern side of that satellite image, you can see how that dry air is kind of wrapping around, kind of inside the center of the storm. So that storm is kind of sucking in some pretty dry air, and that is the reason why we've actually noticed these thunderstorms kind of collapsing. And let me go back to the, let's go back to that satellite image that I started off with. So this is a satellite loop over the last 6 hours, and as you can, and what you want to look at here are the brighter shades of red. Those are the tall thunderstorms, the really intense thunderstorms. And so what we're noticing right now is that, you know, as I mentioned, that the circulation of that system is kind of sucking in some dry air into the center of the storm, and that's why you've noticed this decrease in thunderstorms in the last couple of hours. But just in that very last frame there, the very, very last frame, as this kind of cycles through, so again, 6-hour loop, you can see just in that last frame we have a little blow up of storms right near the center of circulation. So that's what we're going to have to watch for tonight. And with tropical systems, a lot of times what happens is you'll get an explosion of thunderstorms over the Gulf of Mexico, and a lot of times that tends to happen at nighttime. So what we're going to watch for overnight tonight is if we get this big cluster of storms forming near the center. If we get that overnight tonight, that's when we could start to see this thing starting to intensify a little bit faster. So let's zoom. Let's go back to our track in case you missed that. So again, 65-mile-an-hour storm right now, and this is expected, at least according to the National Hurricane Center. This is expected to strengthen overnight tonight to a Category 1 hurricane. And then tomorrow, this is expected, or not tomorrow, excuse me. Tomorrow, this will be an 85-mile-an-hour storm. But on Wednesday, this will make landfall along the Louisiana coast. Right now, the timing has kind of sped up a little bit. So it does look like this will make landfall probably, I would say, sometime early to mid-Wednesday afternoon with 100-mile-an-hour winds. And then this will continue to make its way off to the northeast. That cone of uncertainty, so the cone that you see there, basically what that cone of uncertainty means is that if you're anywhere within that cone, you have at least the risk of being impacted by Francine. And notice the Arclitex were kind of away from this. If you saw yesterday that we were more inside that cone, that has now shifted to the east. And what I want to show you again, if you did miss this, is the latest forecast model track guidance. And you can see here how the forecast models are much farther to the east. Now, you see that one blue line over there, so over on this side, that one forecast model, that's the farthest one over there in Texas. I would ignore that. That's just not a very reliable model. Notice how there's a clustering of these forecast models really in southern and eastern portions of Louisiana. And as you see, the Arclitex, we are well to the west. So again, this is good news for us if this trend does indeed hold up. That would definitely decrease you know, the impacts that we see here. So let me go back to this. Let me actually try to find, I'm actually going to try to do this on the fly here and pull up the National Hurricane Center. So just give me 1 second and I'll try to pull something up for you guys to show you something different. This is kind of behind the scenes stuff. This is stuff that we use to forecast, but I want to show you what we've been looking at. And again, this is just kind of another way of looking at things. Okay, so let's go here. And again, I'm doing this on the fly, so just bear with me. All right, so this is just a bunch of different model data that we use. And what I want to show you are these spaghetti models So this is the latest data that has just come in. Hopefully you can see that okay. And now you see, it's kind of what I was showing you in the other graphic, but all the models, at least these particular hurricane models, you can see that dramatic shift to the east. So now it's really looking like more of a Baton Rouge situation, maybe even as far east as New Orleans, maybe as far back to the west as Lafayette. You know, it's just those areas that we're going to watch, and then this again looks like it's going to kind of track right along the Mississippi River there. And that's kind of what it's looking like, at least right now, for the track. Let's see. And the strength guidance, here we go. This is another different product we use. So all the different lines are the different forecast models, and this is the strength that they're forecasting this to become. And you can see pretty much all of them forecast this to at least become a Cat 1, but there are a few of those models that do bring this up to a Category 2 intensity. And what else? What else? What else? Let me show you the latest satellite loop. This is kind of different products. So again, what we're looking at, this is a kind of a high resolution satellite model, a satellite loop, excuse me. So it kind of shows you what Francine is looking like right now. And what I do want to point out here is that you really can see how disorganized this thing really is. So you can see how that dry air is just wrapping around that entire system. And to be honest with you, the biggest thunderstorms right now are actually pretty far away from the center. You can kind of see how, you know, they're kind of well removed from the center of circulation. So let me see if you guys have any questions here. I think Laura was correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Laura was a Cat 4. I think it was pretty strong. Those worried about Natchitoches, I really wouldn't be overly concerned right now. It does look like it's going to be mostly, I mean, Natchitoches will likely get some heavy rain. Webster Parish, now, Brittany, I think it's going to be pretty much to your east. Yeah. But again, what I'm showing you guys right now is pretty interesting because this is the latest satellite image of Francine, and what it is showing is that this is pretty disorganized. Yeah, definitely not the most organized system. So let me go back to that. All right, so that's the satellite image that we're talking about, and yeah, there's some dry air wrapping into this thing. It is just not looking very organized. And again, I have gone ahead. If you were watching, I did issue a first alert weather day for Wednesday, and that's more of a precautionary thing. You know, we issue these first alert days anytime there's a potential for some impactful weather. So I went ahead and I issued a first alert weather day for us for Wednesday, just kind of as a precautionary thing in case the track suddenly decides to shift back to the west. It could have big impacts for us. But as of right now, that does not look to be the case, which is some great news, of course. And let's see, any questions popping up here? You know, there's a chance it could shift back west, but it's looking pretty, yes, it is kind of like a ping pong. It's kind of like what we call a windshield wiper effect, and it's a real thing that happens with these hurricane models, is they tend to do like this back and forth windshield wiper thing sometimes where they, you know, they'll go back west, they'll go east, they'll go west. We've seen that the last 24 hours, but now there is a consistent signal in the models that this is tracking farther to the east. So we'll see if that trend does continue, but anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in this evening for the Facebook Live. I'm going to actually have to wrap this up because I got to get ready for our 10 p.m. newscast. If you missed our Facebook Live tonight, I encourage you to watch KSLA News 12 at 10 o'clock, and I will be giving you the very latest. And by 10 o'clock, we will have the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. So we'll have some updated data for you and see. It'll be interesting to see what the National Hurricane Center says and if they decide to shift that cone even farther east. And based on the data that I've seen so far tonight, I do think that the cone will get shifted even farther east. And again, Wednesday is a KSLA first alert weather day for this potential impact on the Arklatex. However, if the forecast models continue to trend east and away from us, we will likely cancel that. And so, you know, tune in tomorrow, and Evan Thomason will be in tomorrow morning with the very latest. I'll be in tomorrow afternoon. But again, if models continue to trend east of the Arklatex, that would be great news for us, and we might actually end up we might be able to cancel that first alert day for Wednesday. But that's just something we're going to have to kind of determine as we get a little bit closer. So I'll leave you with this beautiful live shot of downtown Shreveport, and thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you on KSLA News 12 at 10. Have a good night.